We're entering a point in the NBA season where you could begin to expect significantly more player movement, and that applies to everybody, whether you happen to be a player that was at one point in the earlier part of the decade considered to be a superstar traditional center, or if you are a playmaking power forward that happens to have lost all of his athleticism due to a knee injury that has been hampering you for the entirety of your career, or even if you are a player that is in the midst of a very inspiring road to recovery after suffering a freak leg injury that even got traded a few weeks ago. Yes, even Victor Oladipo can potentially be on the move within the next month or so. So what's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here. Before we get to the content, I wanted to let you know we made one of our best pieces of content. It was not news related. I'm kind of working on this project to get you guys more long form content. It's what everyone thought when LeBron James signed with the Miami Heat. I really urge you to check it out. I'm going to leave it in the end screen, and this is going to be the beginning of us upping the quality of the content on this channel and stepping away from just news content. This is going to be a supplement to the content that I already bring you guys. On top of that, I put a tweet in the description down below. If you guys want to join the petition to try to help me get my Twitch account back, just retweet the tweet in the description down below. Now that we've got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, when the Houston Rockets traded James Harden, they essentially had a choice. Either try to engage the Philadelphia 76ers in a package based around Ben Simmons, or not trade James Harden to his old GM that apparently has this huge crush on him to the point where he's even making his center play like James Harden on the basketball court. Or you could trade him for a bunch of assets, future first round picks, and, well, Victor Oladipo. Now, Victor Oladipo was essentially swapped out for Caris LeVert, and there were two big reasons why. One was because he was coming back from a freak injury, and you can still see the lingering effects of his injury start kind of affecting him. Currently, at the time of this video, he's currently sitting out just so he could ensure that he doesn't put too much strain on his quad. But I think there is significantly more to the story than just that. You see, Victor Oladipo obviously feels incredibly indebted to Indiana because he had his best seasons of his career as an Indiana Pacer. Prior to going to the Indiana Pacers, Victor Oladipo was viewed as some sort of role player that really didn't get an opportunity to shine. And honestly, could you blame him? When he was on the Orlando Magic, they played him as a point guard at the beginning of his career, and he even went out to say that that entire portion of his career felt like a bunch of young guys just trying to compete to show that they belonged in the NBA. He eventually became a player that was viewed as the hopeful third man behind Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook's tandem, should Kevin Durant opt to re-sign with the OKC Thunder. Unfortunately, he didn't, so he became Russell Westbrook's second man in OKC. And, well, we saw more of the same from Victor Oladipo before he eventually got traded to the Indiana Pacers for Paul George, a trade that the Pacers were perceived to have been winning so far. Now, following that trade, he put up the best season of his young career, averaging as much as 23 points per game off of 47% shooting and 37% from three. That year, he had a PER of a 23 as well. And this was just a remarkably heartwarming story because Victor Oladipo actually went to college in Indiana, and to have everything click for him finally as a member of the Indiana Pacers, he essentially was viewed as Indiana's hometown kid. Now, ultimately, that would eventually change. And I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with Victor Oladipo's personality or the Indiana Pacers. Rather, I think it has more to do with the fact that Victor Oladipo feels like he's at the stage of his career where he's ready to contend for championships. He's 28 years old, and for the past year and a half, he's practically had a "I want to be signed by the Miami Heat" tattoo straight on his chest. And well, the Indiana Pacers probably caught wind of that and ultimately said that we wanted to get something from Victor Oladipo and not just lose him for nothing, because when you're a small market team, you want to at least get something in return for your assets. And they eventually traded Victor Oladipo to the Houston Rockets. Now, with the Houston Rockets, it's been very up up and down. There was a point where they went on a huge winning streak featuring the likes of John Wall, Victor Oladipo, DeMarcus Cousins, and Christian Wood, and more recently they've been on a huge losing streak. However, the problem with the Houston Rockets isn't necessarily the fact that they don't play well together, it's more the fact that they just can't stay healthy. Either Christian Wood is injured, or Victor Oladipo's injured, or DeMarcus Cousins elects to be released as opposed to continuing on with the Houston Rockets, or there's the terror of John Wall potentially re-injuring his Achilles, or just getting injured in general, because historically if you injure your Achilles tendon, a surgically repaired Achilles isn't necessarily the sturdiest. Now, as a result of all of this, there are some trade rumors surrounding Victor Oladipo, but they're nothing too major. It's very simple. There's a good chance that Victor Oladipo is going to hit free agency this offseason, and should he hit free agency, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to do whatever it takes to join the Miami Heat, mainly because he's been talking about joining the Miami Heat for literally a year and a half at this point. Now, the Houston Rockets did offer Victor Oladipo a contract extension, and this is according to Adrian Wojnarowski, and it goes like this. ESPN sources, Houston Rockets guard Victor Oladipo recently turned down a 2-year, $45.2 million contract extension. This is the most the franchise is eligible to offer him now. And well, Victor Oladipo would go out and turn down this 2-year, $45.2 million contract extension. Now, Woj continues to say that the Rockets and Oladipo have plenty of options between now and the March 25th trade deadline and summer free agency. More details are in Woj's story, but I'll give you the summary right here. You see, there's no surprise that Victor Oladipo would turn this down. As a matter of fact, this is eerily reminiscent of when Kawhi Leonard turned down his extension or Anthony Davis turned down his extension a year ago. It doesn't necessarily mean that these players are leaving their franchise, although for Victor Oladipo, there's a lot of evidence suggesting that he'll eventually get traded within the next month, or he'll elect to leave the Houston Rockets in free agency. But it's nothing that he's been super passionate about. He hasn't come out and made these campaigns saying there's no way I'm going to be a Houston Rocket like the ones James Harden made a couple months ago. But in terms of what we've seen so far, this is what we're assuming. But in addition to that, Woj goes on to explain that this is no surprise that Oladipo would pass on a 2-year extension, nor that the Rockets would offer him the deal now. Victor Oladipo wants a long-term deal, which Houston and others can offer after the season. The fact of the matter is, no matter what the scenario is, all of these players are incentivized to wait until the very end of the season before making a decision such as a contract extension. They could sign for significantly more money. This involves any star player that you could think of, from Victor Oladipo to Zach LaVine. At the end of the day, if you ask me, I'm 100% expecting for Victor Oladipo to leave his team in free agency or potentially re-sign with the Houston Rockets at the start of free agency. He's been very quiet about his situation now, but he's been dropping these little hints saying that he wants to go to the Miami Heat. But for now, this is to be expected. It's nothing out of the ordinary, but since we're a news channel, I thought I'd bring this to your attention. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about Victor Oladipo turning down this deal? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.